The wandering star moved through the darkness of space like a tired worker heading home after a long shift. Captain Reina Torres sat in her command chair, watching the stars drift past her viewport. She had been running cargo routes for 5 years now, and the job had become predictable. Boring, even. But boring meant safe, and safe meant she got paid. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Priya called from the navigation station. Her fingers danced across the holographic display, pulling up data streams that made her frown. "There's a distress beacon coming from Kelthor 7. Reina sat up straighter. "That moon is supposed to be uninhabited." "Are you sure?" "Positive. The signal is old. Really old. Maybe 15 years dormant. But something activated it recently, probably in the last week." Priya turned to look at her captain. "We're the only ship in range." From the engineering bay, Kwame's voice crackled over the intercom. "Boss, we're not a rescue ship. We're hauling medical supplies to New Terra. People are waiting for that cargo." Rena drummed her fingers on the armrest. Kwame was right. They had a schedule, a contract, and responsibilities. But she had been a cargo hauler long enough to know what happened to people who ignored distress signals. They ended up haunted by the what-ifs. "We'll make it quick," she decided. "Just a look. If it's nothing, we're back on course in an hour." Kwame grumbled something about regulations, but he started preparing the ship for orbital approach. That was one thing Reina appreciated about her crew, they complained. But they always backed her up when it mattered. Keltar-7 was a gray, lifeless rock orbiting a dying gas giant. The moon's surface was covered in jagged rocks and deep craters. Nothing grew here. Nothing lived here. Or at least, nothing was supposed to. "There," Priya pointed at her screen. "I've got visual on the source. It's a ship, or what's left of one." The wreckage sat in a crater like a broken toy thrown away by an angry child. But this was no human vessel. The metal was strange, crystalline in places, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like frozen water. The design was elegant even in destruction. "That's Valkyrie technology," Reina breathed. Her heart started beating faster. The Valkyrie were the ghosts of known space species that had nearly destroyed itself in a brutal civil war decades ago. Few had been seen since their homeworld burned. "What's a Valkyrie ship doing out here?" "According to the beacon, it crashed about 15 years ago," Priya said quietly. "Captain, if there are Valkyrie aboard, they're long dead. Only one way to find out." Reina stood and grabbed her environment suit from its locker. "Kwame, you're with me. Priya, keep the engines warm. If this goes bad, I want us able to leave fast." The surface of Kelthor 7 was cold enough to kill an unprotected human in seconds. Reina's boots crunched on the frozen ground as she approached the crashed vessel. Up close, it looked even more alien. The hull had symbols etched into it, flowing script in a language she couldn't read. "The airlock is still intact," Kwame reported, running his scanner over the entrance. "Some emergency power is still running. The distress beacon must be tied to backup systems." They forced the airlock open with portable hydraulics. It groaned and hissed, then gave way. Inside, the ship was dark, except for the pale blue glow of dying emergency lights. The air was breathable, but stale, tasting of recycled oxygen that had been filtering through the same systems for far too long. The interior was decorated with more of those flowing symbols. Furniture that seemed grown rather than built. Everything was sized for people slightly smaller than humans, more delicate in proportion. "Life signs," Kwame said suddenly, his scanner beeping insistently. "Faint, but there's definitely something alive in here." They moved deeper into the ship, past storage areas filled with decaying supplies, past what looked like living quarters. The life sign was coming from a small room at the ship's center. The door was half open. Reina pushed it wider and froze. A child sat in the corner of the room, wrapped in a thermal blanket that had seen better days. She was tiny, maybe 4 or 5 years old by human standards. Her skin was pale lavender, smooth and almost glowing in the low light. Large eyes, far larger than human eyes, stared up at them with a mixture of terror and desperate hope. Those eyes were silver, like mirrors reflecting starlight. "Holy stars," Kwame whispered. She's just a kid. The child clutched something in her small hands, a damaged translation device. Screen cracked, but still flickering with power. She pressed it with trembling fingers, and a mechanical voice spoke in broken standard, "Help, ... alone, ... scared." Raina dropped to one knee slowly, making herself smaller, less threatening. "Hey there," she said softly. "My name is Raina. We're here to help. Can you tell me your name?" The child's fingers moved across the device again. "Lysa. Name ... Lysa. That's a beautiful name." Raina smiled, trying to look calm even though her mind was racing. How had this child survived for 15 years alone? That was impossible. Unless ... She looked around the room more carefully and saw it. In the corner, partially covered by another blanket, was a body. An adult Valkyrie, long dead, curled in what might have been a protective position. The child's caretaker, perhaps. But that meant Lysa hadn't been alone for 15 years. Maybe 3 or 4 at most, judging by the state of decay in the cold environment. 3 or 4 years. This child had survived alone for 3 or 4 years. Kwame scanned the ship's logs. I want to know what happened here. While Kwame worked, Raina stayed with Lysa, speaking in gentle tones, trying to earn the terrified child's trust. Slowly, carefully, she reached out her hand. Lysa stared at it for a long moment, then reached out with her own tiny hand and grabbed it with surprising strength. She wouldn't let go. Captain Kwame's voice was tight with anger. "You need to hear this." He played the ship's automated log. A Valkyrie voice spoke in their musical language, but the translation device processed it into standard. The words made Raina's blood run cold. This ship had been part of the Purity Council fanatics, who had sparked the Valkyrie Civil War. They had been purging their own people, anyone they deemed genetically impure by their twisted standards. Lysa had been one of those children. They had left her here to die, alone on this frozen moon, because in their eyes, she wasn't pure enough to live. The adult Valkyrie had been a dissenter, someone who tried to save Lysa. That person had given their life keeping the child alive as long as possible. Raina looked down at Lysa, still clutching her hand. This little girl had survived abandonment, starvation, and years of isolation. She should have died 100 times over, but somehow she kept living. "We're taking her," Raina said. "Captain, wait." Kwame's voice was worried. "The Valkyrie have treaties. Strict ones. Humans aren't supposed to interfere with their people, especially not their children. If we take her, we could start an interstellar incident. I don't care. The company will fire us. The government might prosecute us. I don't care." Raina looked her engineer in the eye. "Look at her, Kwame. Really look. She's been alone in the dark for years. She's terrified. She's holding my hand like it's the only solid thing in the universe. I'm not leaving her here, and I'm not handing her over to the monsters who abandoned her." Kwame was quiet for a moment, then he sighed. Yeah, okay. You're right. Let's get her to the ship." They wrapped Lysa in warming blankets and carried her gently to the wandering star. She never let go of Raina's hand the entire way. Once aboard, Priya gasped when she saw the child. "We need to get out of here now," Raina ordered. "Plot a course, Captain." Priya's board lit up with warnings. Ships dropping out of hyperspace. Multiple contacts. Their Valkyrie design. 3 sleek interceptors appeared on the view screen, surrounding them. A communication request flashed on the screen. Raina looked down at Lysa, now wrapped in blankets in the command chair, looking impossibly small and fragile. The child was staring up at her with those huge silver eyes, filled with trust that Raina hadn't earned yet but desperately wanted to deserve. She accepted the communication. Valkyrie face appeared on screen, sharp features, cold eyes, and an expression of absolute authority. "Human vessel, you have taken Valkyrie property. Return the genetic specimen immediately or face consequences." Genetic specimen. They called this terrified child a specimen. "Her name is Lysa," Raina said, her voice hard as steel. "And she's not property. She's a person. That thing is a rejected genetic experiment. It has no rights. Return it now." made a small, frightened sound. She tugged on Reyna's sleeve and pressed her translation device. The mechanical voice was barely a whisper. Please, ... Not go back, please. Reyna made her choice in that heartbeat. She looked at the Valkyrie commander and smiled without warmth. No. Then you have chosen to become criminals. We will take the specimen by force. The communication cut off. Alarms blared as the Valkyrie ships armed their weapons. Priya, get us out of here! Reyna dropped into her chair, pulling Lysa close. Kwame, I need everything the engines have got. The wandering star lurched forward as the first shots flew past their hull. They were cargo haulers, not fighters. But sometimes, Reyna thought, as she held tight to the frightened child, you didn't need to be a fighter. You just needed to be too stubborn to quit. Behind them, Kelthar 7 grew smaller. Ahead, the stars waited with whatever came next. And Reyna knew, with absolute certainty, that her life had just changed forever. Part 2. The hunt begins. The wandering star shook as another energy bolt screamed past the hull. Reyna held Lysa tight against her chest, one hand on the controls, the other wrapped protectively around the small child. The little Valkyrie girl was trembling but silent, her silver eyes wide with fear. Kwame, I need those engines, Reyna shouted. I'm trying, boss. These interceptors are fast, and we're a cargo hauler, not a racing ship. Kwame's voice was strained over the intercom. In the engine room, he was pushing every system past its safety limits. I can give you one good jump, but after that, we're running on fumes. Priya's fingers flew across her navigation console, plotting jump coordinates now. There's an asteroid field 3 light-years from here. If we can make it there, we might lose them in the rocks. Do it, Reyna ordered. The ship bucked hard as one of the Valkyrie energy bolts clipped their rear shield. Sparks flew from a control panel and the lights flickered. Lysa made a small, frightened sound and buried her face in Reyna's shoulder. It's okay, sweetie, Reyna whispered, surprising herself with the gentleness in her voice. I've got you. I won't let them take you. The jump drive charged with a rising whine. The Valkyrie ships moved to intercept, but Priya timed it perfectly. Just as they were about to fire again, the wandering star lurched and reality bent around them. The stars stretched into lines of light, and then they were gone. They dropped out of hyperspace in the middle of a dense asteroid field. Rocks the size of buildings tumbled through space in chaotic patterns. It was dangerous, but it was also cover. Kill all non-essential systems, Reyna ordered quietly. Make us as small as possible on their sensors. The ship went dark except for minimal life support and the soft glow of emergency lights. In the silence that followed, Reyna became aware of Lysa's rapid heartbeat against her chest. The child was still clinging to her, small fingers gripping Reyna's uniform like it was the only safe thing in the universe. You did good, Lysa, Reyna said softly. You were very brave. Lysa looked up at her with those impossibly large eyes. She fumbled with her translation device, her small hands shaking. The mechanical voice spoke. They come back? Maybe. But we're safe for now, and I promise you I won't let them take you. Why? The simple question came through the device. But the confusion and wonder in Lysa's expression needed no translation. Why indeed? Reyna asked herself. She had a business to run, a crew to think about, and 1,000 good reasons to hand this child over and avoid the trouble. But looking into those silver eyes, she found she couldn't explain it in words that made logical sense. Because you deserve better, she finally said. Because you've been alone long enough. Because when you asked for help, I couldn't say no. Lysa stared at her for a long moment, processing this. Then slowly, carefully, she leaned her head back against Reyna's shoulder. It was a gesture of trust that made Reyna's heart ache. Hours passed in tense silence. Priya monitored the sensors while Kwame ran damage assessments. The Valkyrie ships searched the asteroid field, but the wandering star stayed hidden among the tumbling rocks. Eventually, the interceptors gave up and jumped away. They're gone, Priya confirmed. For now, Reyna finally allowed herself to relax. She looked down and realized Lysa had fallen asleep against her, exhausted by fear and stress. The child looked even more fragile asleep, her lavender skin pale in the emergency lighting. "We need to talk about what we're doing," Kwame said, emerging from the engine bay. He stopped when he saw Alyssa sleeping in Reyna's arms, and his expression softened. "Okay, she's adorable, but Captain, we're in serious trouble."
Oh, right.
Those weren't random Valkyrie.
"They were military vessels. I know they'll come after us. They'll keep coming, and eventually they'll catch us." Kwame sat down heavily in the co-pilot's chair. "We need a plan beyond running and hiding." Reyna knew he was right. She carefully shifted Lysa to a more comfortable position. The child murmured something in her sleep, but didn't wake. "First, we need to get her checked out. She's been surviving on emergency rations for years. There's no telling what condition she's really in." And then Priya asked, "We find a way to keep her safe permanently." Over the next 3 days, they made their way to Haven Station, a frontier settlement far from the major space lanes. It was the kind of place where people didn't ask too many questions, which was exactly what they needed. During the journey, Lysa slowly began to trust them. She followed Reyna everywhere, never more than a few feet away. At first, she barely spoke, even through the translation device. But gradually, she began to open up. Priya discovered that Lysa was incredibly smart. The child learned new words in Standard at an amazing rate. She watched everything with intense curiosity, those silver eyes taking in every detail. When Priya showed her how the navigation systems worked, Lysa understood the concepts faster than seemed possible. Kwame found Lysa in the engine room one morning, carefully organizing his tools. She had arranged them by size and function, creating a system that actually made sense. "Kid's got a good head on her shoulders," he admitted grudgingly. "She might make a decent engineer someday." But the trauma was still there, just below the surface. Lysa woke up screaming from nightmares almost every night. She refused to eat unless Reyna ate first, as if she didn't trust that the food was real, or that she was allowed to have it. She panicked whenever Reyna left her sight, even for a moment. One night Reyna woke to find Lysa standing beside her bunk, tears streaming down her face. "Bad dream," the child whispered through her device. "Scared. Dark place. Alone."
What?
Reyna pulled her into the bunk without hesitation. "You're not alone anymore. I'm right here." Lysa curled up against her, and Reyna held her until the child's breathing steadied into sleep. Looking down at the small, trusting face, Reyna realized something important. She wasn't just protecting Lysa out of duty or stubbornness. She was starting to care about this child as if she were her own. Haven Station appeared on their sensors like a promise of temporary safety. It was a chaotic collection of docked ships, rotating habitat rings, and makeshift markets. The kind of place built by people who didn't fit anywhere else. They docked without incident and made their way through the crowded corridors to the medical bay. Dr. Amara Chen was an old friend of Reyna's, a xenobiologist who had left official research to practice on the frontier. If anyone could help Lysa, it was her. Dr. Chen took one look at Lysa, and her expression turned serious. "Bring her into the exam room." "Where did you find her?" "It's a long story." "I've got time." Examination took over an hour. Lysa was frightened of the strange equipment, but Reyna stayed with her the entire time, holding her hand and explaining what each device did. Dr. Chen was gentle and patient, earning small smiles from the nervous child. Finally, Dr. Chen pulled Reyna aside. Her face was grim. "That child shouldn't be alive," she said quietly. "The malnutrition alone should have killed her years ago. But that's not the worst of it." She pulled up a holographic display showing Lysa's cellular structure. "There's something encoded in her DNA. Data, massive amounts of it. Scientific research, I think. It's like someone turned her into a living storage device." "Is that why the Valkyrie want her back?" "Probably. There's a bigger problem." Dr. Chen highlighted sections of the display. "The encoding is breaking down, slowly damaging her cells. If we don't extract that data soon, it's going to kill her. She has maybe 6 months, probably less." Reyna felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. "Can you extract it?" "Not with human technology. I'd need specialized Valkyrie medical equipment. It's the kind of thing that's almost impossible to get legally, and incredibly expensive on the black market." "How expensive?" Dr. Chen named a figure that made Raina's head spin. It was more money than the wandering star would earn in 5 years. Money they didn't have and couldn't get through legal means. Before Raina could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the station. Priya's voice crackled over Raina's communicator. "Captain, we've got a problem. A colonial inspector just arrived, and he's asking questions about a human vessel harboring a Velkari child." Raina's blood ran cold. How did they find us so fast? Velkari filed official complaints with human authorities. "Captain, they're demanding Lisa's extradition. Inspector says we have 48 hours to comply, or he's authorized to take her by force." In the exam room, Lisa was playing with a holographic puzzle Dr. Chen had given her, finally relaxed and smiling. She looked so small, so innocent, so unaware of the forces gathering around her. Raina made a decision. They couldn't fight the Velkari military and human law enforcement, but maybe they didn't have to. There was another option, a dangerous one, but it was the only chance they had. "Priya, start making contacts. I need to know where we can find black market Velkari technology." "Captain, I know what it is. Do it anyway." That night, Lisa sat on Raina's bunk, working on her standard vocabulary. She had progressed from single words to simple sentences. Suddenly, she looked up at Raina with those huge silver eyes. "Raina, why other humans want send Lisa away?" Raina struggled to find words a traumatized child could understand. "There are rules between different peoples in space. Rules about not interfering. Some humans think we have to follow those rules, even when the rules don't make sense." "Lisa, be good," the child said urgently. "Lisa, be quiet. Learn fast. Please, ... Raina, not send away." The desperate hope in those words broke Raina's heart. She pulled Lisa into her arms. "Listen to me carefully. I am not sending you away. I don't care about rules or treaties or anything else. You're staying with me? I promise." "Promise?" Lisa's voice was tiny. "I promise." Lisa was quiet for a moment, then she said something that changed everything. "Will you be my papa?" Raina felt tears prick her eyes. "I'd be your mama, sweetie. Papa is for a father. But yes, if you want me to be, I'll be your mama." "Mama." Lisa tested the word, then smiled. The first real smile Raina had seen from her. "Lisa want mama? Then that's what I'll be." Later, after Lisa fell asleep, Raina contacted Priya. "Did you find someone?" "Yeah, there's a dealer named Silas on Obsidian Point. He supposedly has Velkari medical technology. But Captain, Obsidian Point is dangerous. It's a criminal haven. Set a course. We leave in the morning." "What about the colonial inspector?" Raina looked at Lisa, sleeping peacefully for the first time since they'd found her. "We'll be gone before he can stop us. If that makes us criminals, then that's what we'll be." Because some promises, Raina thought, were worth any price. Part 3. The weight of choice, the wandering star. Slipped away from Haven Station in the dark hours before dawn. Colonial Inspector Martin Cross arrived at their docking bay 40 minutes later to find it empty. He stood there for a long moment, staring at the vacant space, then pulled out his communicator. They ran. He reported to his superiors. "Issue a warrant. Captain Raina Torres is now a fugitive." But by then, Raina and her crew were already 3 jumps away. Heading toward the lawless depths of space where governments feared to follow, the journey to Obsidian Point took 5 days. During that time, Lisa began to change. The frightened, silent child they had found was slowly replaced by someone more confident, more curious. She still had nightmares, still refused to be far from Raina, but she smiled more often. She laughed when Kwame told terrible jokes. She helped Priya with calculations, her quick mind grasping mathematics that should have been far beyond her age. "She's special," Priya said one evening, watching Lisa work on a logic puzzle. "Not just smart. There's something different about her." Raina had noticed it too. Sometimes when Lisa touched the ship's control panels, the systems responded faster, more smoothly. It was subtle, easy to miss, but it was there. Lisa had some kind of connection to technology that went beyond normal interaction. The Velkari encoding in her DNA, Dr. Chen had mentioned. It might be giving her abilities we don't fully understand. Whatever it was, it made Lysa even more valuable. And more vulnerable? On the third day, Lysa was playing in the common area when she suddenly stopped. Her silver eyes went distant, unfocused. Then she started speaking in Valkyrie, words tumbling out in a rush. Her voice sounded different, older, carrying a weight of sadness that no child should know. Reyna rushed to her side. Lysa, can you hear me? The child blinked and focused on Reyna's face. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. Mame, Lysa, remember? Remember Mama before? She was scientist. She put knowledge in Lysa, said make Lysa special. Keep safe. Lysa's small hands gripped Reyna's arms. But it hurts sometimes. Inside, like fire. Dr. Chen's words came back to Reyna. 6 months, maybe less. The encoded data was killing her. We're going to fix it, Reyna promised. We're going to get that fire out of you, and then you'll feel better and stay with you. Still be your daughter? Always. Nothing is going to change that. But Lysa looked uncertain. What if? What if they take knowledge away and Lysa not special anymore? You still want? Reyna pulled the child into a tight embrace. Listen to me. You're not special because of what's in your DNA. You're special because of who you are. Because you're brave and kind and smart and stubborn. Because you survived when you should have died. Because you chose to trust me, even though the universe gave you every reason not to trust anyone. She pulled back to look into Lysa's eyes. You could be the most ordinary child in the galaxy, and I would still want you. You're my daughter. That's not about what you can do. It's about who you are. Lysa's face crumpled, and she sobbed into Reyna's shoulder huge. Gasping sobs that seemed to release years of fear and loneliness. Reyna held her through it all, whispering comfort, promising safety. Being the mother this child had never truly had, Kwame and Priya watched from the doorway, both of them blinking away their own tears. We're really doing this, aren't we? Kwame said quietly. We're going all the way. Yeah, Priya replied. We are. That's our family now. Kwame nodded slowly. Then we'd better make sure we succeed, because I'm not letting anything happen to that kid. Obsidian Point appeared on their sensors like a scar on the face of space. It was built inside a massive asteroid, hollowed out and filled with docking bays, markets, and hidden passages. Ships of every design clustered around its smugglers. Its pirates, traders, and forbidden goods, and people running from the law. It was exactly the kind of place that law-abiding citizens avoided, which made it perfect for them. Remember Reyna told her crew as they prepared to dock? We're just here for the medical equipment. We get in, we deal with Silas, we get out. No unnecessary risks. Lysa clutched Reyna's hand as they walked through the crowded corridors of Obsidian Point. The child's eyes were wide, taking in the chaos around them. Alien species of every description filled the passage. Some were trading goods, others were conducting business in shadowy corners, and more than a few looked like they were sizing up the newcomers for potential profit. Kwame led them deeper into the station, following the directions they had been given. Finally, they reached a nondescript door marked only with a simple symbol. Kwame knocked 3 times. The door opened to reveal a human man in his 50s. Scarred and weathered, with cold eyes that had seen too much. This was Silas. You're the ones looking for Valkyrie medical tech? He asked without preamble. That's us, Reyna confirmed. Silas's gaze dropped to Lysa, and something flickered in his expression, surprise, perhaps, or recognition. Come in. We'll talk business. His workspace was filled with alien technology of every description. Devices Reyna couldn't begin to identify lined the shelves. In the center of it all was what they needed, a Valkyrie medical extraction unit, sleek and crystalline, its purpose unmistakable. That's it, Dr. Chen had told them. That's the device that can save her. I know why you need it, Silas said, still watching Lysa. The kid's got encoded data, and it's killing her. I've seen it before. The Purity Council did it to dozens of children before the war ended. Most of them died. How much? Reyna asked. Though she already knew she couldn't afford it, Silas named a price that confirmed her fears. It was impossible. Even if they sold the Wandering Star and everything they owned, they couldn't raise that much money. However, Silas continued, I might be willing to make a trade. There's something I need, and your crew has skills that could be useful. What kind of something? Kwame asked suspiciously. There's a data core in a rival's vault. Contains information about old Valkyrie military installations. Locations, access codes, that sort of thing. Worth a fortune to the right buyer. Get me that data core, and the medical device is yours. Why do you need us? Priya asked. You must have your own people. The vault has Valkyrie security systems. Biometric locks that need a Valkyrie to open them. Silas looked at Lysa. The kid can interface with technology, right? I saw it in the way she looked at my equipment. She's got the gift. Use her to crack the vault, and everyone gets what they want. No, Raina said immediately. I'm not putting her in danger, and the kid dies in 6 months. Your choice. Lysa tugged on Raina's sleeve. Mama! Lysa, help. Lysa can do... Absolutely not. But Lysa won't stay with Mama. Want be healthy? Can help. The child's voice was desperate, pleading. Please let Lysa help. Raina looked down at her daughter because that's what Lysa was now. Truly her daughter, and felt torn apart. Every instinct screamed to protect this child, to keep her far from danger. But Lysa was right. Without that medical device, she would die. And they had no other options. We do the job, Raina finally said. But Lisa stays safe. We bring portable tech that she can access remotely. She doesn't go anywhere near the actual vault. Silas considered this, then shrugged. Fine. But if you can't crack the vault remotely, you'll have to bring her in. That's non-negotiable. They planned the job over the next day. The vault belonged to a crime lord named Vex, a Thraxian with a reputation for extreme violence. His security was tight, but Kwame found weaknesses in the patrol patterns. Priya mapped out escape routes, and Lysa practiced interfacing with sample Valkyrie technology. Learning to read the alien systems with growing confidence, the night before the job, Lysa couldn't sleep. She sat on Raina's bunk, fidgeting with her translation device. Scared, she finally admitted, What if Lysa fail? What if not good enough? You're more than good enough. But I'm scared too, Raina said honestly. I'm scared something will happen to you. I'm scared I'm making the wrong choice by even considering this plan. Then why do? Because sometimes being a parent means making impossible choices. Means choosing between different kinds of fear and hoping you pick the right one. Raina pulled Lysa close. But I promise you, no matter what happens, I will protect you. Even if it means giving up everything else. Even the ship. Even the ship. Even ... Your life? Raina didn't hesitate. Even that? Lysa was quiet for a long moment, processing this. That what Mama before did? Gave life to save Lysa. She loved you. And so do I. Lysa, love you too, Mama. The child's voice was soft but certain. Best Mama ever. The next night, they made their move. Kwame and Raina infiltrated Vex's compound while Priya stayed with Lysa on the Wandering Star, monitoring everything through remote cameras. The plan was simple. Get close enough to the vault for Lysa to access it remotely. Copy the data and get out. But plans, Raina had learned, rarely survived contact with reality. They got within 50 meters of the vault when alarms started blaring. Somehow, Vex had known they were coming. Guards poured into the corridor, weapons drawn. Kwame took a hit to the shoulder, going down hard. Priya, we need an exit. Raina shouted into her communicator while dragging Kwame behind cover. Working on it. But Captain, there's no way to access the vault from here. The signal is being jammed, which meant only one option. Raina looked at the vault door, so close, but impossibly far. They needed Lysa. They needed her physically present to crack those locks. Every protective instinct. Raina had screamed against it. But Kwame was bleeding. They were pinned down, and without that data core, Lysa would die anyway. Priya Reyna said, her voice shaking. Bring her here, Captain, are you sure? No, but do it anyway. 10 minutes later, the longest 10 minutes of Reyna's life. Priya arrived with Lysa. The child looked terrified but determined. Smoke filled the corridor from fires started during the fight. Energy bolts flew overhead. It was chaos, violence, everything a child should never experience. But Lysa walked forward with her small chin raised, holding Reyna's hand. Lysa, ready, Mama? They ran through the smoke and gunfire. Reyna's body wrapped around Lysa's, protecting her with every step. They reached the vault, and Lysa placed her small hands on the access panel. The child's silver eyes went distant, focused on something only she could see. The vault's security systems were talking to her, and she was talking back. It was beautiful and terrifying to watch. Mama, Lysa whispered. Mama, trust Lysa. Always, Reyna replied, even as she heard footsteps approaching. I've got you. I'll always have you. The vault door opened with a soft click. Inside, the data core gleamed like a promise. Behind them, Vex's guards closed in. Reyna grabbed the core with one hand and Lysa with the other. Ah! Priya! We're coming hot! She shouted. Clear us a path. They ran, Lysa's small legs pumping as fast as they could. Energy bolts scored the walls around them. Kwame fired back, despite his injury, covering their retreat. Priya had stolen a cargo hauler and crashed it through Vex's front wall, creating an exit that definitely hadn't been there before. They tumbled aboard and Priya gunned the engines. Behind them, Obsidian Point exploded into chaos as Vex's forces realized they'd been robbed. But they made it. Somehow, against all odds, they made it. On the wandering star, Lisa collapsed into Reyna's arms, exhausted and shaking. Did good, Mama? Lysa did good? You did amazing, my brave girl. So amazing. Silas met them at the rendezvous point and accepted the data core without comment. True to his word, he handed over the medical extraction device. Good luck, kid, he told Lysa, his voice surprisingly gentle. You've got a hell of a mother. They left Obsidian Point behind. Reyna held the device that would save her daughter's life and realized how far she had come. She had broken laws, made enemies, and risked everything. And she would do it all again in a heartbeat. Because that's what mothers did, Part 4. Breaking Point, the medical extraction device sat on the table in the wandering stars. Common area, gleaming with alien technology. Dr. Chen had arrived hours ago, brought secretly to their hidden location in an abandoned mining station. She circled the device, checking readouts and muttering to herself. Lysa sat on Reyna's lap, unusually quiet. The child understood what was coming, understood that the process would hurt, but she also understood it would save her life. I need to be honest with you, Dr. Chen finally said, sitting down across from them. This procedure is dangerous. The Valkyrie designed these devices for their own physiology. Lysa is young, and her system has been compromised by years of malnutrition. There's a real chance she won't survive the extraction.
What chance?
Reyna asked, her arms tightening protectively around Lysa.
Maybe.
Maybe 60% survival rate. 70 if we're lucky. The number hit Reyna like a physical blow. 30 to 40% chance of death. Of losing the daughter she had only just found. And if we don't do the procedure, Quame asked quietly, she'll die in less than 6 months, guaranteed. Dr. Chen looked at Lysa with sad eyes. The encoding is breaking down faster than I originally thought. I'd say she has for months, maybe less. Lysa's small hand found Reyna's and squeezed. Through her translation device, she said, "Want try, Mama. Want live with you." Reyna felt tears burning in her eyes. Are you sure, baby? We don't have to decide right now. Yes, sure. Lisa's voice was steady, despite her fear. Lysa trusts Mama. Trust Dr. Chen. Won't be healthy? Want to grow up. Want to grow up. 3 simple words that contained all of a child's dreams. The chance to have a future, to have birthdays and friends and ordinary days. Everything Lysa had been denied for so long. When would we do this? Raina asked. As soon as possible. Every day we wait, her condition deteriorates. Dr. Chen stood. I'll need a few hours to prepare. Make sure Lysa eats something light and gets some rest. The procedure will take about 6 hours, and recovery will be at least a week if all goes well. After Dr. Chen left to set up the medical bay, Raina held Lysa close and tried not to think about that 30 to 40% chance. Tried not to imagine a universe where this brave little girl didn't make it. Tell Lisa's story, the child asked. Happy story. So Raina told her stories. About Earth, the world where humans came from, with its blue oceans and green forests. About children who played in sunshine and never went hungry. About families who stayed together and never abandoned anyone. She told stories until her voice grew hoarse, until Lisa's silver eyes grew heavy with sleep. Mama? Lysa murmured, fighting to stay awake. If Lysa not wake up, want you know? You best thing ever happened to Lisa, made Lisa happy. Made Lysa feel ... wanted. Don't talk like that, Raina whispered, her voice breaking. You're going to wake up. You're going to be fine. And we're going to have so many adventures together. I'm going to teach you to pilot a ship. We'll visit a dozen worlds. You'll have everything you've ever dreamed of. Already have everything. Have Mama Raina held her daughter and cried silent tears into her hair, praying to any god who would listen that this wouldn't be goodbye? 4 hours later, Lysa lay on the medical table. Looking impossibly small, Dr. Chen had attached various monitoring devices to her temples and chest. The extraction device sat beside her, its crystalline structure glowing with soft blue light. Ready? Dr. Chen asked gently. Lysa looked at Raina, who was holding her hand. Mama, stay? I'm not going anywhere. I'll be right here the whole time. Promise? I promise, my brave girl. Dr. Chen activated the extraction device. It hummed to life, and tendrils of light extended from it to touch Lysa's skin. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Lysa's body went rigid, her back arching off the table. She screamed. It was a sound that would haunt Raina for the rest of her life. Not a child's scream of fear, but something deeper, more primal. A sound of agony that seemed to come from the very core of her being. Mama. Mama, it hurts. I know, baby. I know, I'm here. I'm right here. Raina gripped Lysa's hand with both of hers, as if she could anchor her daughter to life through sheer force of will. You can do this. You're the bravest person I've ever met. The extraction device pulled data from Lysa's cells, and it appeared on holographic displays around them, streams of information. Research notes, calculations that scrolled past too fast to read. The genetic legacy of a dead civilization, coded in the DNA of one small child. And Lysa screamed through all of it. Dr. Chen worked frantically, adjusting the device's output, trying to minimize the trauma. But there was no way to make this painless. No way to make it anything but torture. How much longer? Kwame asked from the doorway. He looked stricken, helpless. For more hours, Dr. Chen said grimly. At least 4 hours of listening to a child scream. For hours of watching Lysa's small body convulse with pain while data streamed from her cells. For hours of Raina whispering comfort and encouragement. Her own tears falling on her daughter's lavender skin. Priya left twice to be sick. Kwame stood in the doorway with his hands clenched into fists, looking like he wanted to fight someone, but there was no enemy to fight. And Raina held on, even when her hands went numb, even when her voice grew hoarse from talking, even when she wanted nothing more than to rip the device away and end Lysa's suffering, but she didn't, because ending the suffering meant ending Lysa's chance to live. Somewhere around hour 3, Lysa's screams faded to whimpers. Her silver eyes, which had been wide with pain, began to glaze over. The monitoring devices showed her vital signs dropping. She's going into shock, Dr. Chen said urgently. Her body is shutting down. No. Raina leaned close to Lysa's face. No, baby, you stay with me. You hear me? You stay with me. We have so much left to do together. I haven't taught you to cook. I haven't shown you what snow looks like. You haven't seen your first sunrise on a real planet. You can't leave me now. Can't. For a moment, there was no response. Lysa's eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. The monitors screamed warnings. Then, so faintly Reyna almost missed it, Lysa squeezed her hand. That's my girl, Reyna sobbed. That's my strong, brave, wonderful girl. Just a little longer. Stay with me just a little longer. Dr. Chen worked faster, her hand steady despite the pressure. The data stream began to slow, the information that had been killing Lisa finally leaving her body. The extraction device pulsed brighter, then suddenly went dark. The room fell silent except for the beeping of monitors. Is it done? Kwame asked. Yes. Dr. Chen checked her readings. The encoded data is completely removed. Now we wait to see if she can recover. Lysa lay unconscious on the table, her breathing weak but steady. Reyna refused to let go of her hand, refused to move from her side. Hours passed. Day turned to night, and back to day again, in the artificial rhythm of the mining station. And Reyna waited. Kadam Wei brought her food that she barely touched. Priya offered to take a shift watching Lysa so Reyna could sleep, but she refused. She had promised to stay, and she would keep that promise even if it killed her. On the second day, Lysa's eyes fluttered open. Mama? Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. Reyna leaned over her, tears of relief streaming down her face. How do you feel? Tired? Hurts? But different. Not burning inside anymore? Lysa's small hand squeezed Reyna's. We did it? Did it. You're going to be okay. Good. Lysa's eyes started to close again. You can sleep now. Mama still be here when I wake up. I'll always be here. Lysa smiled, a tiny expression of peace, and drifted back to sleep. Dr. Chen monitored her recovery over the next week. Slowly, day by day, Lysa grew stronger. Her appetite returned. Her energy came back. And the burning pain that had been slowly killing her was gone, replaced by the ordinary aches of a body learning to be healthy. But safety, Reyna soon learned, was a fleeting thing. They were preparing to leave the mining station when Priya's sensors picked up ships approaching. Lots of ships. Captain, you need to see this. Priya's voice was tight with fear. On the view screen, a fleet was approaching. Not the small interceptors from before. This was a Valkyrie battle cruiser, surrounded by escort vessels. A warship powerful enough to destroy anything in its path, and it was coming directly toward them. How did they find us? Kwame demanded. Does it matter? Reyna said grimly. They're here now. Communication request came through. Reyna accepted it, and the face that appeared on screen was familiar Commander Zethus, the Valkyrie who had chased them from Kelthar 7. But he looked different now. More determined, more dangerous. Captain Torres, he said. Your run ends here. You have 30 minutes to surrender the specimen and face justice for your crimes. If you refuse, we will destroy your ship. Her name is Lysa, Reyna shot back. And she's not a specimen. She's my daughter. She is Valkyrie property containing valuable research data. Data that belongs to our people. The data has been removed. It's gone. There's nothing in her anymore except a little girl who wants to live. Zethus's expression didn't change. Then she is a witness to classified information. She must be returned for debriefing and proper containment. Containment. They didn't even pretend it was about Lisa's well-being anymore. Her away. Study her. Treat her like an object rather than a person. No, Reyna said simply. Then you will die. All of you. For the sake of one alien child who means nothing to humanity? Reyna looked at Lysa, who had woken and was clutching her hand with frightened eyes. She thought about the journey that had brought them here, the distress signal on a frozen moon. The terrified child asking for help, the small hand that wouldn't let go. She thought about promises made and kept. About becoming a mother to a child who had been abandoned by her own people. About the moment Lysa had first called her mama and how it had changed everything. You're wrong, Reyna said to Zethus. She means everything, and I will not let you take her. You cannot win this fight. You have one cargo vessel against a battle cruiser. Then I guess we're going to lose. Reyna smiled without humor. But we're going to make you work for it. She cut the communication and turned to her crew. Battle stations. We're going to do something incredibly stupid. Wouldn't have it any other way, boss, Kwame said. The Valkyrie fleet advanced, weapons charging, ready to end this rebellion once and for all. But Reyna Torres had learned something important over the past weeks. She had learned that some things were worth fighting for, even when the fight seemed hopeless. She had learned that family wasn't about blood or species, or treaties between governments. Family was about showing up, about keeping promises, about standing between the people you loved and anyone who wanted to hurt them. The Wandering Star might be just a cargo hauler. Its crew might be ordinary humans with no special powers or advantages. They might be outnumbered, outgunned, out of options, but they had something the Valkyrie didn't understand. They had each other. Sometimes that was enough. Part 5. The stand the Wandering Star was not built for combat. It had minimal shields, no real weapons, and engines designed for hauling cargo rather than tactical maneuvers. Against a Valkyrie battlecruiser and its escort fleet, they should have lasted approximately 30 seconds, but Reyna Torres had not survived 5 years running cargo in dangerous space by playing it safe. Priya, plot an escape vector through that debris field, she ordered, strapping herself into the command chair. Lysa was secured beside her, wrapped in protective restraints, but refusing to leave Reyna's side. Kwame, divert everything we've got to rear shields. You just need to last long enough to get a message out. Message to who? Kwame asked. Already working the engineering console. We're wanted by human authorities, remember? Nobody's coming to help us. Maybe not. Reyna pulled up the communication array and started broadcasting on every frequency she could find. But people need to know what's happening here. They need to know that Valkyrie are hunting a child, that they're willing to kill humans to get her back. The Valkyrie fleet opened fire. Energy bolts tore through space, and the Wandering Star lurched as its shields absorbed the impact. Alarms screamed. Systems overloaded. But Priya's hands were steady on the controls, weaving between shots with desperate skill. Reyna activated her broadcast. This is Captain Reyna Torres of the Wandering Star. We are currently under attack by Valkyrie military forces. Our crime is protecting a child, a little girl who was abandoned to die alone. The Valkyrie want her back, not to save her, but to contain her. To treat her like property instead of a person. She looked down at Lysa, who was watching with those huge silver eyes. Her name is Lysa. She's 6 years old. She likes puzzles and mathematics. She survived 3 years alone on a frozen moon. And she calls me Mama. Another barrage struck the ship, as the rear shields flickered and failed. She's my daughter now, Reyna continued, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. And I won't let anyone take her. Not the Valkyrie, not human authorities. Not anyone, because some things are worth fighting for. Some things are worth dying for. When protecting our children, regardless of species, that's one of them. The broadcast went out across known space, carried by automated relay stations, bouncing from system to system. On Haven Station, people stopped to listen. On New Terra, families gathered around their screens. Across human settlements, the message spread. A cargo captain was making a stand. For one alien child, against impossible odds, Commander Zethus appeared on the view screen again. Your broadcast is meaningless. Humans will not risk war with the Valkyrie over one child. Maybe not officially, Reyna agreed. But you don't understand humans very well, do you? We're stubborn, we're sentimental. And we really, really hate bullies. The Valkyrie battle cruiser charged its main weapons, preparing for a killing shot. The Wandering Star's shields were gone. One more hit would tear them apart. Lisa grabbed Reyna's hand. Not sorry, Mama. Even if we die, I'd best life with you. Was happy. We're not dying today, baby. I promised to show you snow, remember? Then something impossible happened. Space twisted. And a human destroyer dropped out of hyperspace between the Wandering Star and the Valkyrie fleet. It was the UES. Defiance, a military vessel that should have been 3 systems away. A new voice crackled over the communication channel.
Augury Fleet?
This is Captain Marcus Joe of the United Earth ship Defiance. You will cease fire immediately. Commander Zethus's expression flickered with surprise. Human vessel, this is not your concern. We are exercising our legal right to retrieve. I heard the broadcast, Joe interrupted. The whole damn fleet heard it. And I'll be straight with you. I'm not here on official orders. The government is still arguing about jurisdiction and treaties and all that political nonsense. But I watched my own daughter die 5 years ago, and I couldn't do anything to save her. His voice hardened. I'll be damned if I watch another child die when I can do something about it. 2 more human ships appeared, military vessels that had no business being there. Then 3 more. Then a dozen. No. Captains and... Part 1. The distress signal crews, who had heard Reyna's broadcast and made their own choice to respond. This is unauthorized action, Zethus protested. Your government will let them court-martial me, Joe said. Some things are more important than careers. That little girl is under human protection now. You want her? You go through all of us. On the wandering star, Reyna stared at the view screen in disbelief. Kwame was laughing and crying at the same time. Priya kept saying they came. They actually came. Lysa looked up at Reyna with wonder in her eyes. Why they help? Don't even know Lysa? 'Cause that's what humans do, Reyna said, her own voice thick with emotion. When we see someone who needs help, we help. Especially children. It doesn't matter what species you are. You needed protection, and they're giving it. The standoff hung in the balance. The Velkari fleet was powerful, but they were now facing a growing human force. More ships kept arriving, drawn by the broadcast. Civilian vessels mixed with military ones, creating a barrier around the wandering star. Commander Zethus was forced to make a calculation. Was one child worth starting a war with humanity? The Purity Council will not forget this, he finally said. That specimen carries Velkari genetic heritage. We have the right. She's not a specimen, Captain Joe interrupted. Her name is Lysa, and she's not yours anymore. She's ours now. She's human, by adoption and by choice. That is not legally recognized, then we'll make it legal. Humanity claims Lysa as one of our own. If you want to challenge that, take it up through diplomatic channels. But if you fire on her again, you fire on humanity. The Velkari fleet held its position for another tense minute. Then, slowly, they began to withdraw. Commander Zethus's face disappeared from the screen without another word. They were gone. The Wandering Stars Bridge erupted in cheers. Kwame hugged Priya. Dr. Chen, who had been hiding in the medical bay, came running out. And Lysa threw her arms around Reyna's neck, sobbing with relief. Safe now, Mama. Really safe? Really safe, baby. Really safe. Captain Joe's face appeared on the view screen. Captain Torres, you're one crazy lady. You know that. Yeah, I've been told. Colonial Inspector Cross is going to have some questions for you about kidnapping, violation of treaties, and operating outside legal jurisdiction. I figured. But between you and me? Joe smiled. I think once people hear the full story, those charges are going to quietly disappear. Public opinion is a powerful thing. And right now you're a hero. Not a hero. I just did what anyone would do. That's where you're wrong. Most people wouldn't have risked everything for one alien child. But you did. That makes you exactly the kind of person the universe needs more of. The connection closed and Reyna held Lysa close, finally allowing herself to believe it was over. They had won. Against all odds, they had actually won. Over the next weeks, the galaxy watched as humanity officially granted Lysa asylum and recognized Reyna's adoption. The Valkyrie lodged formal protests, but they were drowned out by overwhelming public support for the small family that had captured hearts across human space. The charges against Reyna were dropped in. Recognition of extraordinary circumstances. Silas, the black market dealer, mysteriously disappeared before anyone could question him about illegal technology, and the Wandering Star was repaired and upgraded. Courtesy of donations from people who had watched the standoff, Dr. Chen stayed on as Lysa's personal physician. monitoring her recovery. Kwame and Priya became her honorary uncles, teaching her engineering and navigation. And Raina discovered what it meant to be a mother, with all the joy and fear and overwhelming love that came with it. 3 months after the standoff, they were docked at Haven Station, preparing for their first cargo run since everything had changed. Lysa was healthy now, growing stronger every day. Her silver eyes were bright with curiosity and happiness. She still had nightmares occasionally, but she always woke to find Raina there. Keeping her promise, the genetic data that had been extracted from Lysa was given to moderate Valkyrie factions who opposed the Purity Council. It contained research that could help rebuild their shattered civilization. Some saw it as justice, the knowledge that had nearly killed one child being used to save an entire species. Raina and Lysa were in the market district, shopping for supplies, when a young Valkyrie woman approached them. She moved hesitantly, as if afraid she would be turned away. "Captain Torres," she said in accented standard, "I wanted to thank you. My name is Kayla. I am part of the new Valkyrie movement. The research data you released has already saved dozens of lives. Children who would have died from the same encoding that nearly killed Lysa." Raina felt Lysa's hand tighten in hers. "I'm glad it's helping people, more than helping. It's giving us hope." Kayla knelt down to Lysa's level. "Little one, you are very brave. What you survived, what you endured, has meaning now. You saved our people." Lysa looked uncertain. "Not try to save. Just try to live. Sometimes that's the same thing." Kayla stood. "Not all Valkyrie are like the Purity Council. Many of us were horrified by what they did to you. If you ever need anything, if your family needs anything, the new Valkyrie will help. You have friends among us." After she left, Lysa was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked up at Raina. "Mama, am Valkyrie or human?" It was a question Raina had known was coming. She knelt down to meet Lisa's eyes. "You're both. You're Valkyrie by birth, and that's part of who you are. But you're human by choice, by family. You don't have to pick just one. You can be both. Like bridge. Between two peoples, exactly like a bridge." Lysa considered this seriously. "Good. Like being both. Like having two families. Valkyrie, who nice, and humans who saved Lysa. That night, back on the Wandering Star, Lysa had her own small room. Raina had painted it in soft purples and blues, colors Lysa had chosen. There were books on the shelves, children's stories from a dozen worlds, toys that Quema had built, a star chart that Priya had customized showing Kelthar 7, Haven Station, and Eartha places that mattered in Lias's young life. But most nights, Lysa ended up in Raina's quarters, curled up beside her mother. "Feeling safe and loved, Mama?" Lysa said one evening, practicing her standard. She barely needed the translation device anymore. "Tell a story about how we meet, again? I've told you that story 100 times. Like hearing. Like remembering was all real. Sometimes still feels like dream." So Raina told the story again. About a distress signal from an abandoned moon. About a terrified child holding her hand. About the moment she decided that some rules were worth breaking for the right reasons. And you know what the best part is? Raina finished, pulling Lysa close. "What? Every morning I wake up, and you're still here. That's not a dream. That's real. You're real, and you're mine. And nothing is ever going to change that. Even when Lysa big. Even when grow up. Even then, you'll always be my daughter. Always." Lysa smiled, that beautiful expression of pure happiness that made everything they had been through worthwhile. "Love you, Mama. I love you too, my brave girl." More than all the stars in space, outside their window, Haven Station bustled with life. Ships came and went, carrying their own stories across the galaxy. Somewhere out there, Commander Zethus was probably still angry about the child who got away. Colonial Inspector Cross was filing reports about the incident. Captain Joe was likely getting reprimanded for his unauthorized intervention. But here, in this small room on a patched-up cargo ship, none of that mattered. Here, A human woman and a Valkyrie child had found what both had been missing. A family, built not from biology or law, but from choice and love and stubborn refusal to give up on each other. Reina Torres had started this journey as a cargo captain, looking for a boring, predictable life. She had found instead the greatest adventure of all, being a mother, and Lysa, who had survived abandonment and isolation and years of pain, had found what every child deserves. Someone who would fight for her, someone who would keep their promises, someone who would never, ever let go. They fell asleep together, mother and daughter, wrapped in the safety of each other's arms. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new cargo runs, new adventures. The galaxy was vast, and there were 1,000 stories still waiting to be lived. But tonight, they had everything they needed. They had each other, and that was more than enough.